What's up, guys? It's Waggish American here and bringing you another model build. Today I'm going to be building the Airfix 1/72 scale Fw 190A-8. Starting off in the box, really nice box art. It's one of their new box arts that I actually like. Color painting guide on the back is always nice. Really, the only reason I bought this kit was Quick Kit's video and the snake. I haven't done any reading about what the snake is about, but I do really like it. Opening the box, you get a set of instructions and a bag with the sprues. Now, I have cut these open, but I've not done anything else with the sprues. Let's start off on the instructions and the decals, which are also in here. As usual with Airfix and Cartograph, we get some really nice decals. Barely any carrier. You probably can't see it here, but all the little words in the stencils are legible, if you can read German, which I can't. Instructions are nice. It's the booklet instead of like the Revel does those huge poster foldouts, which are impossible to keep in order. Pretty easy to read instructions, nothing super complicated. It's just your basic Airfix instructions. I do like they provide a separate stencil sheet here, so that you don't have to try to cram all the stencils and decals onto the same thing and clutter it up. So that's very easy to read. Moving on to the parts, I want to start with the clear parts. The clear parts are very nice. They're super thin, not a scratch on them. My only real regret with these is that I'm not building two of them so I can have both canopies, because I think both canopies are just beautiful. Besides the clear parts, it comes with 3 sprues of Airfix's light gray plastic. Nothing really to say about any of this. It's just your typical new tooled Airfix glory. No flash, really nice crisp details all over the place. Lot of detail molded into the cockpit tub that other kits would provide on separate details you plug in. Really like that that's all in one place. Engine's kind of strange. It's not a huge fan of how they did the engine here. They buried the engine inside the cowl, so it's virtually impossible to get in there and paint it and give it a dry brushing. That's kind of the only real disappointing thing I found with this kit. I also really like how they did the bottom wing, incorporating the structure into the wing itself here, which lets them add a bit more detail than other kits that don't do that. Plenty of extra stuff for other options, like you see these bulges here. They have different bulges for each different 190 they do. I'm not sure all of them. The only other one I know of is this kit, and then there is the one that's discontinued now, which is this kit, but there's another set of letters after the A8, and that is an Eastern Front one, and it's done in white stripes. That's the one I really wanted to do. Anyway, everything looks really good. Airfix Fw 190A8. Let's get building. I began construction by cutting out all the pieces of the Cockpit Tub Assembly. These were then airbrushed. An interior gray, I believe it was RLM 74. It may have been RLM 66. No, it was RLM 74. Since I already had the thinned paint in my airbrush cup, I also went ahead and painted the inside of the landing gear doors and the wheel wells themselves. These were also done in RLM 74. Once I finished spraying the main color of RLM 74, I used toothpicks, fine brushes, and bits of white, red, and yellow based on reference photos to add some detail and color to the inside of the cockpit. I also highlighted certain dials in black. Once all my paints had dried, I took some Pledge Future floor polish and applied it to all the areas I had painted. This both sealed the paint and created a glossy surface I could run a wash over later. Given 12 hours to dry, I used Tamiya panel line accent color black along all the details of the cockpit. This made the raised detail pop and be extremely visible under the canopy. I then used microset to apply the control panel decals to the control panel itself. Once those were dry, I glued the control panel to the cockpit tub. At this point, the cockpit tub was complete, and I could finally attach it into the fuselage. Now that the cockpit tub had been glued into the fuselage, I could begin to attach the two pieces. Overall, the fit here is pretty good. It only required a little bit of tape. I did have some problems around the nose, but I think most of this was due to the issues I had placing the exhausts. This leads me into the most annoying part about this kit, the fact that the front top bit is provided as separate pieces. These are not molded great, and this makes huge gaps that needed lots of putty and very careful sanding after. With the cockpit mostly complete, I began to work on the wings. I glued the cannons in, which was quite the task, before gluing the wing halves onto themselves. As the wings sat drying, I was able to finish up construction of the fuselage by attaching the rudder and gluing in the cowl. I then glued the wings onto the fuselage. The fit here was very good and required little to no filler. Once the wings had been finished, I attached the tailplane. After I had filled and sanded down the filler, I attached the landing gear. I also placed the flying landing gear in to serve as a mask for the wheel wells during painting. I then glued in the canopy. While I waited for the PVA glue to dry, I assembled the propeller and spinner. I started out by painting my custom RLM yellow on the nose and then giving it a pre-shade of black. All underside parts were painted RLM 76 light blue. I was really happy with how this came out. This is the first time I have ever tried pre-shading and had it come out looking good and be visible, at least on the underside. I think priming with a light primer made specifically for models as opposed to automotive primer made all the difference. The upper surfaces of the aircraft were painted with RLM 75 and RLM 74. For masking, I used masking tape, and to get the wavy lines and to mask off the sides for modeling later, I used your average silly putty. I really like this stuff for making curves. It's much simpler than trying to cut them out of tape, and gives a slightly feathered edge. And here you can see what I meant by using silly putty to make curvy lines as I spray the RLM 75. Or the darker one. I don't have the paints in front of me right now, so I can't tell you which is which. I intended to record the mottling process, but that ended up taking much longer than I thought it would, so here's a final picture. I then applied Pledge Future Floor Polish. Once this was on and dry, I began the decal process. First, I paint on a layer of micro set. Then, I apply the decal, and rub off the excess microset from the model, because I did not let the future sit long enough and it was starting to pull it up. Once this decal was dry, I brushed over it again with microsol, which helped it fit into the recesses. This was repeated for all decals on the upper and lower surfaces. Although, I did have a better experience laying them down on the lower surfaces. I think the lighter color shows what little silvering there was less. Rest in peace, my speakers. Once all the decals have been applied, I used super glue, a very jelly super glue, to attach the landing gear struts. I use super glue here because it's a point that I frequently break. I then used super glue again to attach the propeller and cooling fan to the engine. Before adding a flat coat, I actually covered the decals with another coat of Future and went over all the panel lines with Tamiya panel line accent color black. It really showed up well on the undersides and even managed to break through on the gray on top. I think using this product really helps your final finish. It may not be the most realistic, but it makes it look much more visually interesting. Once the landing gear had been completed, I attached the cleaned up canopy to the glass. I then used some string and superglue to make the antenna wire. And with that, once I added a little bit of weathering, the model was complete. Overall, I really liked this kit. It's not the greatest of Airfix's new tools, but it's certainly a lot better than a lot of kits you'll find. If you're wanting to build this variant of the FW190, I don't know where else you could find a better kit of it. Some of the molding isn't the best. The cockpit detail's a little iffy on the tub. It's kind of soft. But I really don't know that you could find a better one in this scale. You'd probably have to look for something much pricier like Edward to find it. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you'd like to see more, feel free to smack that subscribe button. I am the Waggish American, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.